our chief counsel of the ACLJ. I wanted to bring you in because I know it's a busy time for our legal team. The texts keep coming in and out as there's almost, I think, finished with the initial rounds of our filings here on the case out of Nevada. But I did want to go to you, Dad, just to kind of explain to people how you think this plays out, because I think it's something probably by the end of the week we're gonna probably have a decision on.
Yeah, we got to have a decision technically, I think, from this afternoon forward. Anytime now you can have it. Look, I just reviewed a brief that we're filing in response to the filings we now received from Nevada and from the Nevada Democrat Party. And they are really arguing on a procedural basis. And they touch on the substance, but not a lot, because they're very weak on the substance. They're trying to hook it procedurally by basically asserting that it's not a relief that can be requested. And I think we've done a very effective job of rebutting that. Look, what the Secretary of State did was unconscionable. They said, use this form. The Green Party used the form, and then they said, we're not going to accept it because that form is not the right form, even though it was the form you told us to use. So, I think we've got a very strong case on the merit. But look, Supreme Court review on these things are always, odds are against it. But I'm pretty optimistic here that we'll at least got a shot. We certainly got the court's attention.
Yeah, we got the court's attention. We knew that when they ordered the replies last week. And, of course, there was a holiday some places, some federal holidays on Monday. So their replies came in. Now, well, I was interested in their replies, which is they try to rely their main argument to the Supreme Court is you don't have the power to do this, like the court loves to hear that, and we don't have time to print ballots. Now, this is 2024. If you have to print new ballots for an entire state, and a lot of these are actually just the early ballots that go out, you can do it in a day. You can ship it overseas in a day.
Right. The time constraint is a time constraint of Nevada's own making. The truth of the matter is there's some days here. This has to move quickly, no doubt. We're 49 days away from the election, so this has got to move quickly. But quickly here should mean that there should be a resolution by the end of the week. And this argument that there's not enough time is just not right.
I also just remind people the Nevada Democrat Party, Dad, is something they could do it. It was not illegal for them to do it, but they waited to file on the final day they could attack and file against the Green Party to try and make it more difficult, if they were successful, for the state to print the ballots.
In my mind, there is no question about that. And if you look at how they procedurally handle it, you'd have to come to the same conclusion. But nevertheless, I think we presented a very coherent argument, and we're worried about election integrity. Knocking parties off when they've been basically hoodwinked by the Secretary of State would be a horrible precedent to allow to sit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people need to understand why we're getting involved in this, because you hear words like, Green Party and all of this, and you know where we stand. And we want to know why we are getting involved. I've seen that even in some of the commentary. If they maybe aren't watching this show, they go, that's strange that the seculos are getting involved in this. So can we give a bigger idea? I understand it's election integrity, but why that should be important to our listeners?
Logan, that's a great question. And here's the truth. We've represented in the religious liberty front, I've represented, as you all both know, the Hare Krishnas before. Why? Not because I support the theology of the Krishnas, because their right to propagate their beliefs, their evangelism, if they're denied their right, well, then our clients are denied their right. And the same thing goes here. Jordan said this very well the other day. If this is allowed to happen to the Green Party, you don't think they're going to do this to other parties, including conservatives? You know they will. So that's why you got to kind of nip these things off as soon as they start happening.
Yeah, especially in a time period where it's possible you could see the makings of a potential third party that conservatives could be interesting, a viable one. You kind of see the makings of the RFKs, the Tulsi Gabbards of the world. You could imagine in a scenario in our lifetime, but not if the major two parties are able to keep those parties from even being on the ballot, even when they've spent the resources, even when they've gone to the Secretary of State and said, hey, we want to double check, make sure the form we're about to use is the correct form. The Secretary of State, and that would have been the right form, Dad. They had the right form. The Secretary of State's team said no. And then now the Secretary of State's team, instead of taking responsibility for that, wants to say, well, it's their fault for using the wrong form. It's their fault for relying on the Secretary of State's information.
Yeah, they're saying the Secretary of State made a, quote, inadvertent mistake, and you can't hold them responsible for it, but you can penalize the client who now can't have their party registered for voters to cast a ballot for. So that tells you how unjust that is. It also tells you where the Democrats are in this. So I hope that explains why we're doing this.
Yeah, but also it makes sense because, like you said, could they do it to other parties? Well, they already know that they tried to do this to President Trump, and we had to get involved in that.
It was the original one. So this isn't some sort of shocking thing that this would happen. We saw it with RFK multiple times, but then we had to get involved for President Trump.
That's exactly right. And it was the same kind of thing. It was one of these, and everybody said on that one, remember, there's no way that could happen. And it did. So I think we're doing the right thing institutionally. I sent a text to our board members explaining why we're doing it. And the reason we're doing it is if you let it sit, it could impact the entire election, especially in the close states.
And if this kind of standard was okay, if it was okay to give a candidate or party the wrong form and then let their opposition party file a lawsuit against them on the final day you can to say they used the wrong form, and by the way, now they don't have time to correct it. And you, the state, are the reason why they used the wrong form. I mean, that gives bad actors in the Secretary of State's office a actual framework to deny ballot access.
Oh, it's an incentive to deny ballot access. Are you kidding? I mean, that's the reality of what it is. It's an incentive to deny ballot access. But that's why we're fighting, and that's why people supporting the work of the ACLJ is making a huge difference on so many issues.
Yeah, and that's, again, why I believe, too, people are supporting the work. They see, again, the work we'll do on the 14th Amendment, the work we're doing in this case. And we're asking people right now, if you become an ACLJ champion right now at aclj.org/champions, your actual first donation that you make and your recurring donations, your first one is going to be doubled, kind of like a matching challenge, but your first donation will be doubled. So go to aclj.org/champions. And Dad, I mean, we have a big team on this. This was it moved very quickly, of course, last week, and then it moved even more quickly the last 24 hours. Yeah,
and it's going to move quickly now. I mean, I think it's in the court's hands, and any additional orders are going to come, I think, very, very quickly.
And then, add to the third, there's no question why we're in Nevada. Monday night, I was in Washington, D.C., and one of the Senate candidates running for the Republican running was at a dinner I was at, and it's a 3-point race.
Yeah, I mean, it's very close.
It's a 3-point race.
So that's
and
why
most
you
of
have
these polls are showing 2 and 3. Now, that is why you're getting so much. The Nevada, remember.
Because you think about why would they care?
In some states, they wouldn't.
Right.
I guarantee you, in deeply blue states and deeply red states, the Democrat Party isn't trying to sue to keep the Green Party off.
It's just specifically because it's a swing state.
Swing states. It's a swing state. They found a way to do it.
Yeah.
Which is, they didn't use the right form. Even though, and I think what they got caught was that may have worked if it was their fault for not using the right form. But then when they sued, they found out, they used the wrong form because the Democrat Secretary of State gave them the wrong form and actually said the form that they had, which was the correct form, was the wrong form. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues here that they actually caused by filing this lawsuit.
Yeah, we got a good comment that came out on Rumble. Said, I'm glad the ACLJ and those are tackling this case because they would also do this to the Libertarian Party if they could, or any of the other parties.
Absolutely. And again, you have to look at that. And RFK is fighting those battles there. He's got the resources. We also look at resources, too. And ACLJ and our co-counsel this knows we have the resources to take this all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and fight the battle.
They have the resources, too, though. So
on the other side. Yeah. On the other side, has brought in two of the biggest law firms in the United States. So do not think when you were talking about the Secretary of State of Nevada
you're thinking some
and the Nevada Democrat Party that it's some local general counsel. They do have those. But they brought in the 2 biggest law firms in the United States to write their reply to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so spending a lot of money and taking it very seriously.
Very seriously, because this is about those 3% or less could determine who is in the White House come January.